Right, strange kind of... hang on a sec. Right, strange kind of week, bizarre kind of week. I was applying for a teaching job. I was interviewed by the headmaster. He said to me, so you want to be a math teacher at this school, do you? I said, yes please. He said, right, have a look at this shape. And he showed me this isosceles triangle here. He said, how confident are you that you can work out these two red angles, he said. He said, how confident are you that you can work out these two red angles? And I said, 50-50. He said, I'm sorry, I'm looking for someone a bit more sure of themselves. Right, let's start the lesson. Let's start the lesson. Right, Trigonometry lesson 2. In this lesson I'm going to teach you how to find missing angles in right angled triangles. You need to have a calculator with you. It needs to have these three buttons, sine, cos and tan. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to remind you how we label the three sides in a right angled triangle when we do this topic. I did do this last lesson of course, but I need to do it again now. We definitely need to go over it again. So which side is the, hang on a sec, so the longest side in a right angled triangle is called the hypotenuse. So in this triangle it's this side here, the longest side, hypotenuse. The longest side is actually always opposite the right angle. I'm just going to use the abbreviation HYP, H-Y-P. The names we give to the two shorter sides are opposite and adjacent. Adjacent just means next to. Opposite just means opposite. Which side? So let's say the names we give to those two sides depend on which angle we're considering in the question. So let's say we're focusing on this red angle here. Which side do you think is the adjacent side? Well, adjacent means next to, as I said. So it's this side here. It's the side next to the angle, adjacent. And I'm going to be using the abbreviation ADJ, ADJ, the adjacent side, which means that this side here is the opposite side because it's opposite the angle. I'm going to be using the abbreviation OP, O-double-P. So the names we give to the two shorter sides depend on which angle we're considering in the question. So had I marked this angle here, then this would be the adjacent side and this would be the opposite side. The hypotenuse never changes, it's always the longest side. Right, I'm now going to talk about the meaning of these three buttons, sine, cos and tan. I did talk about this quite a lot last lesson, but yeah, again, it's definitely worth mentioning again. If you remember this made-up word, SOHCAHTOA, that will help you to remember the meaning of the three buttons. It's to do with the sides of a right-angled triangle, OP, HYP and ADJ. This word SOHCAHTOA, it tells us that sine means opposite divided by hypotenuse, which I've written there. Cos means adjacent divided by hypotenuse, which is there. And tan means opposite divided by adjacent, which is there. As I said, in lesson 1 I sort of went into it a bit more and I tried to make it as clear as possible what those three buttons mean. So that on its own is not going to make much sense to you. Hopefully it will make some sense when we do the questions today, but I'd also recommend looking at lesson 1 if you haven't done so already. Finally, we're going to be finding missing angles today. I could use X or Y to stand for the angles we're trying to find, but I'm going to use this symbol instead. It's pronounced theta. It's a Greek letter of the alphabet, theta, and it's often used in maths to stand for a missing angle. The symbol itself is just a 0 with a horizontal line through it, theta. Right, I'm going to do 2 examples of finding missing angles in a right angled triangle. So here's the first one. Here's our right angled triangle. And to find an angle, you need to know 2 sides to find either angle. So let's say this side is 6 centimetres and this side is 7 centimetres. And suppose it's this angle that we're interested in finding. So I'll just label it theta, that Greek symbol. First thing you do is you label the three sides, just like we did in the last lesson. So which side is the hypotenuse? It's this side here, the longest side, opposite the right angle. Which side is the adjacent side to the angle we're trying to find? It's this side here, next to the angle, edge. And this side here is the opposite side, op. Now notice the opposite side wasn't marked at all in this question, so we can ignore it. This question is about the hypotenuse and the adjacent. They're the two sides we've been given. So which button is to do with the hypotenuse and the adjacent side? So which button, sine, cos or tan, is to do with the hypotenuse and the adjacent? Well, it's cos. Cos means adjacent divided by hypotenuse. It's cos. So what we write down is we write cos theta. Even though we don't know the angle, we write cos theta. The first thing you always write down in these questions is sine, cos or tan of the angle. So we've got cos theta there. Now we don't know theta, but we can work out its cos value. We can work out cos theta because cos means adjacent divided by hypotenuse, and we have both of those things. So cos means adjacent divided by hypotenuse, and the adjacent side is 6 centimetres, the hypotenuse is 7 centimetres. So cos theta, adjacent divided by hypotenuse, is just 6 divided by 7. Now, if you could do 6 divided by 7 on your calculator, if you could do that now, 6 divided by 7, and if you could change it into a decimal, you should get 0.857 ... and so on. I've just written the first few digits, but keep all the digits on the screen. You'll need it later. If you don't know how to change the answer into a decimal, it's okay to leave it as a fraction. I like using a decimal, but you can leave it just as 6 over 7. So check when you do 6 divided by 7, you get one of these two things. Right, now we want to find what theta is. We want to find this angle. If you remember from last lesson, when we were finding a missing side, we knew the angle, we were given an angle, and we pressed sine, cos or tan, and the calculator took us from the angle to a decimal. Here, we've got the decimal, but we want the angle. So we need to do the reverse process. We basically need to press the button that does the opposite, or inverse, of cos. So the button that does the inverse of cos is called inverse cos. This is the symbol for it. It's cos with a little -1. Inverse cos. That -1 is not a power, it just means the inverse of cos. To get it on your calculator screen, usually you press Shift cos. Usually it's the same button as cos, it's just the symbol above the button. So to work out theta, what we write is inverse cos of the decimal, or the fraction. You could write either one. And what we press to find theta on the calculator is Shift cos answer. When you press answer, the calculator remembers the fraction or decimal that was on the screen. So you need to work out inverse cos of this number, Shift cos answer, and just check that you should get 31.0 degrees to 1 decimal place. In maths we often round angles to 1 decimal place. So just check that you get 31.0 degrees to 1 decimal place. Right, let's do one more example, finding a missing angle. It's going to be very similar to the last example, so I may go a bit quicker this time. Here's a right angled triangle. Let's say this side is 5 centimetres and this side is 9 centimetres. Now because we've got two sides, we could actually find either angle, but suppose we want to find this angle up here. Just going to label it theta. As always, first thing you do is you label the three sides. So which side is the hypotenuse? Well, it's this side here, the longest side, hypotenuse. Which side is the adjacent side to the angle we're trying to find? Well, it's this side up here, because it's next to the angle. And so this side here must be the opposite side to the angle, op. So we've labelled the three sides. Now notice in this question the hypotenuse wasn't marked at all. So we can ignore this side. It's not going to come up. This question's about the opposite side and the adjacent side. They're the two sides we've been given. So which button, sine, cos or tan, is to do with the opposite side and the adjacent side? So which button is to do with the opposite and the adjacent? Well, it's tan. Tan means opposite divided by adjacent, so it's tan. So tan. So, as always, the first thing you write down, when you've worked out which button it is sine, cos or tan of the angle. So even though we don't know the angle, we still write down tan theta. And like I said, we don't know theta, but we can actually work out tan theta, because tan just means opposite divided by adjacent, and we've got both of those things. Tan means opposite divided by adjacent, and the opposite side is 5 centimetres, the adjacent side is 9 centimetres, so tan theta, opposite divided by adjacent, is just 5 divided by 9. 5 divided by 9. So if you do that on your calculator now, if you do 5 divided by 9 on your calculators, and if you get your answer as a decimal, you may get 0.555 ... with the 5's going on. Or the calculator may write it as 0.5 with a dot above the 5, which just means 0.5 recurring. If you do get it this way, just keep all the digits on the screen, because you'll need that for later. Also, it's fine actually to leave the answer as a fraction. So you can leave it as 5 over 9 as well. So when you do 5 divided by 9, just check that you get one of these things on your calculator. Right, we want to find the angle, we want to find theta. Now if you know the angle and press tan, the calculator takes you from the angle to a decimal. We've got the decimal and we want the angle. So this time we need to press the button that does the opposite or inverse of tan. And of course that button is inverse tan. This is the symbol for it, as you'd expect. Just tan with a little -1, just means inverse tan. Again, to get it on the screen, you usually have to press Shift Tan. It's usually the symbol above the tan button. So to find theta, what you write down is inverse tan of the fractional decimal. I'm just going to use the decimal. That's what you write down. And what you press is inverse tan answer. Remember, when you press answer, the calculator remembers the fractional decimal that was on the screen. So see if you can do that on your calculator. Inverse tan of that number. And you should get the answer to be 29.1 degrees to 1 decimal place. So have a go at that and just check that you get 29.1 degrees to 1 decimal place. That's the end of the lesson. So we've now done 2 lessons on trigonometry for right-angled triangles. Now in my opinion the best way to improve at maths, apart from watching my videos obviously, is to try practice questions. So I put a couple of practice questions at the end of this video for anyone who wants to try, based on what we did today, which was finding missing angles in right-angled triangles. Now whenever you do a question on trigonometry, I recommend writing down SOHCAHTOA at the top of the page. If you write that down, that will help you decide whether to use sine, cos or tan in the question. Now I've also put the answers at the very end of the video, so you can pause the video, have a go at the questions and then look at the answers. And make sure you try the questions first this time. Right, here are the questions. Bye.